Hey, are you actively participating in the Kansas City real estate market? Or maybe you're gonna be transferring in from out of state? If so, then you're definitely gonna wanna know about the Kansas City real estate market because there's some pretty wild stuff going on. I've been doing this over 20 years now and I have not seen a market quite like this.
So today we're gonna go over all the aspects of the Kansas City real estate market and things you're gonna wanna know. Why homes are selling so quickly, how much momentum is in the market, what things are gonna be like in a couple of months because it's changing.
Changing fast.
But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please go ahead and give us a shout out and let us know down in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. First, we're going to talk about who is struggling and who is winning in today's market in Kansas City.
There's definitely people struggling. We've got limited inventory. We have limited inventory because there's a lot of people that are sitting on interest rates that are like 1.5, 2.5, 3%, and they really like their payments and they're not excited to give that up anytime soon.
I just did a scenario for somebody yesterday, actually. They have a house for sale, $220,000, and they were asking me about the difference between a 2.5% and a 6.5% interest rate. And the difference was $500 a month on the 2.5 just for the interest portion versus $1,200 a month on the 6.5%. So that's really where our inventory problem is coming from, is people are locked in or they don't have the ability to change that interest. They might want to move up, get a bigger home for their family or a different area, but they can't afford or don't want to pay the difference in interest.
That's the first struggle. Since there is limited inventory and we still have a large pool of buyers, people that want to move, people that need to move, there's still people transferring in just like you might be because you took a job here. They're having to fight over that limited inventory. So anytime in Kansas City, our kind of average price point in the whole KC metro area is like right around $350. But some of the hot suburbs that have the great school district that the families kind of look for, that price point gets pushed up probably closer to $450 for a median price point around those areas. And if you are shopping at that average price point, then you are competing with the majority of home buyers in that area. And that makes it very difficult. We're starting to see multiple offers again this spring, even with the higher rates, because it's supply and demand. Mainly, Max and I were joking earlier before this, but you have to trust your realtor. And they tell you you might have to go 3% or 5% over list price in this neighborhood to win that property. You should listen to them because, you know, we've done this thousands of times and you have to have your heart broken a couple times before you just get fed up. And that's what we see oftentimes is our buyers will be like, yeah, I hear you, I know, but I want to try. I don't want to overspend. So boom, miss out on the house, somebody else gets it, boom. Then you just get fed up and you're like, I'm tired of looking shopping. I just want a damn house. If you go with the mindset that you might have to pay over, you've got some cash set aside for that, you're prepared for that, that's going to put you in a winning position.
The people that are struggling, that are losing out on buying a home, they don't have a lot of cash. They need the first-time home buyer program, VA financing, they struggle. Sellers are getting offers from people that are winning with lots of cash, paying over ask price, waiving contingencies to do with the nickel and dime stuff on the inspections, waiving the appraised value contingency even sometimes, where they say, not only will we pay $20, $30, $40,000 over ask price, but we'll pay over the appraised value. So waiving that contingency, those are the people that are winning in today's market, and it just makes it tough for people that don't have the ability or the willingness to do that. If you've got cash in your pocket to do the remodel and can buy a fixer-upper, there's less people that are after that thing. There's less competition in that market. So another thing that comes to mind for people that are winning are people that have flexibility with their timing. You know, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're renting and you've been saving some money and got some cash in your pocket, you're in a great spot because a lot of people that are selling their home, they don't want to be homeless. They can sell their house relatively easily, but they have to turn around and buy one, and that's hard to do. So if you can offer them a flexible solution on your timing to say, hey, we'll close now and rent back to you, or we'll push the closing date out 60, 90 days and give you an opportunity to find your home. That can be a way that you can solve a problem for a seller.
Yeah, in fact, I've had even people on my listings will come and say, hey, we will be contingent on this seller finding their next house. So just to get that offer accepted, I mean, the odds are they're probably going to find something once they get in that mode. But just like you said, putting yourself out there as a buyer because you've got that flexibility can drastically improve your odds, even over somebody that's cash that just wants the house right now.
They're working with us. They're going to find something.
I'm not wearing any sleeves, but he's got a lot of tricks up these sleeves to make it happen.
Real quick, we know that if you're watching this video, then you're thinking about moving to the Kansas City area. We would love to hear from you. We're the #1 relocation specialist in Kansas City. We network with all the businesses in Kansas City. So if you're looking for a job or something like that, we might be able to point you in the right direction. If you're looking for a contractor, we know all of the best people to work with. We've weeded out all the bad apples. We do thousands of these deals, a couple hundred every year, and we will negotiate the best deal for you. So feel free to reach out to us, whether you want to call, email, or text us. If you want a Zoom call, we would love to hear from you. So reach out to us. Next, we're going to talk about knowing the stats. Knowing the stats is super critical because you want to know as a buyer where the competition is, where you need to be, and we're going to go over that right now.
So us realtors use this thing of months of inventory talk. It's like, hey, if nobody listed another house today in the Kansas City market, how long would it take to sell every house on the market at the velocity houses are selling at? So usually 6 months is that balance point to where it's not a buyer's market, it's not a seller's market. There's just a nice equilibrium in the market. When it gets below that 6 months, it becomes a strong seller's market. And when it gets above that, it becomes a buyer market. Now, we've been doing this for a long time. So back 2007, 8, 9, in the good old days, we got up to over 24 months of inventory. And now the pendulum has swung the other way. And we are sitting in most of the places around Kansas City, 1 to 1.5 months of inventory.
Sellers are getting their revenge from the Great Recession. They got pummeled when the market tanked back in 09. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, there was so much inventory and so few buyers. Back, I think it was around 2017, it was balanced for a minute, and then it quickly shifted into a seller's market. Yeah, we've got the counties pulled up here, the months of inventory for each county. So the lowest months of inventory for counties in Kansas City is Johnson County at 1.7.
If nobody lists a house in Johnson County, 1.7 months, all the inventory be sold. The velocity they're selling right now, so pretty wild.
I guess that's not the lowest, because Clay County is even lower at 1.5. That's up in the Northland on the east side of the Northland, north of the river in Missouri. And Platte County is the same, 1.5 months of inventory. If you want to be up north of the river in Missouri, there is very low inventory at 1.5 months.
Jackson County at 2.2, which is kind of the south side of Kansas City. So there's a little more there, a little less desirable. You know, that's even low as well.
So one of the important things to look at is how does our supply compare to last year's inventory? Some interesting things we found out as we were doing research is that right now, roughly 13% lower inventory today than it was in 2023 on the same day of last year. I thought that was pretty interesting. It was a very low inventory environment in 23 as well.
Yeah, and a lot of that, like what we just spoke to about interest rates being low, there's a lot of people that are moving now. To get somebody to move, they either have to be moving for a job, maybe they are transferring out of their house into a retirement home. We've seen some of that this year. Maybe somebody has passed away and now the house is opening up. But the traditional home seller that was moving up like every 7 to 10 years, that has kind of stalled right now because of those rates.
We're working primarily with people that have to move. A lot of you folks that are transferring into Kansas City, we love to hear from you because you've got to move, and we love to help you make a good decision when you're doing it. Not a lot of people that just want to move. The want doesn't usually equal the cost of doing so as far as the change in interest rates. Paradoxically, it's kind of funny when we're looking at the inventory levels. Johnson County, one of the most desirable areas in Kansas City, is actually up in inventory this year over year, just 4.5%, but it is notable because most of the areas are down. What do you think that's from, Zach?
Well, there is a ton of new construction. They have just continually are just adding on to that area. Johnson County is one of the best counties according to all the stats that, Overland Park, a lot of the great suburbs of Kansas City are there with great school districts, and they are constantly building roads, new subdivisions, even apartments and townhomes and all that stuff just to accommodate more folks.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that's that we should really highlight in this video is that a lot of the lack of inventory is in that median range. They're not building homes anymore in the median range. Median is 350 to 450.
Probably 450 down in that area in Johnson County, yeah.
You may be able to find new construction in the fours, but it's usually in the $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 price range. It's not as competitive in those ranges. If that's your price range, then you can really, with builders, with the way interest rates are, their costs of carrying that inventory and paying interest on it while they don't have it sold is expensive. So we do still see people getting good deals on new construction, not paying over ask price, even builders offering some incentives to folks. It's kind of a tale of two markets, one that has to compete against new construction and one that doesn't. Cass County is up 45%. Holy cow.
Wow. I know there's a lot of new construction. We worked with a couple builders that had built a ton of property down there right when things were booming, and then the market kind of shifted gears, and it's kind of turned into one of those places that's stalled out. And there's a lot of inventory left over from that build boom that didn't quite get completed by the time rates jumped back up, and everything kind of cooled down.
So there are some areas that have a little more inventory than last, but overall, as the Kansas City whole, the inventory is 13% below 2023.
Where are we seeing the most momentum?
Hey Mo, talk about some momentum.
Momentum. Well, I would have to just start with, most of the action is around that average price point. So 350 to 450 is where a lot of action is happening. That's where most of the homes are getting sold. But beyond that, because that is pretty competitive, some places that I'm seeing it is that 700 to like 1.5. I think there's a pocket of buyers that are going after that new construction. Maybe they're coming in from, some of you California folks. It's nothing to sell a property for 1.5, and you can come here and park it into, or you're probably selling it for $4 million out there, coming here and turn it into 1.5 for even more square footage sitting on a golf course. So we're seeing some of that. Where else do you see kind of people?
Yeah, for sure. There's momentum in that trend. I think it's from a lot of people are working from home and, Zoom call in. And
that's what's bringing a lot of people to Kansas City is if you don't have to show up in the office anymore, then if you can save money on the place you live and where you spend most of your expenses and cut that in half, hey, Kansas City's a great place to call home.
That's another thing we're seeing momentum is cash buyers are scooping up properties because they know that they're going up every month. We've seen 20% inflation, 15, 20%. And if you break that down by month, it's 1% a month or more, which is just crazy to think about. So
yeah, and there are some other folks that were kind of in a real good spot. Maybe they had a 15-year mortgage and they'd been there for 10 years. They had a ton of equity, and then they went through 22 and 23 where they got 20% appreciation followed by 15%, and now we're working on 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is. There's a lot of equity built up there that they can then sell that property with all their equity, put it down on the next, and they're not really borrowing that much. So even at these higher interest rates, their payments are crazy out of line.
I think of Kansas City in general, it's been growing at almost 1% every year. At 1.7 million people in the Kansas City metro area, that's almost 17,000 of you folks every year moving to Kansas City. So we're seeing momentum as a city in general. Platte County is one of the fastest growing counties in Missouri. Up by the airport, they recently decided to revitalize the airport and build a new terminal. There's plans to build another terminal. Facebook is building a big hub in Platte County. DeSoto has a big battery plant coming in. Olathe is growing like fire out there, the southwest side of Kansas City. You've got momentum to the upside, but you also have momentum in the downside of the market. And one of the things we noticed was during the Great Recession time, properties that really held their value were the lake properties. So, Lake Bacomas, Weatherby Lake, all the lakes around Kansas City where you can actually live on water, they held their values amazingly relative to some of the other areas that were more cookie cutter. During COVID, when everybody's priorities changed a little bit, it seemed like, and a lot of people wanted to stretch out and get away from one another a little bit, have a little more elbow room. And so, yeah, we have seen a ton of momentum for people that are looking for that 3-acre properties, estate-sized lots, or, little hobby farms.
Like we got a lot of people that are coming from California, New York, Texas, Chicago, just some of these really densely populated cities in those states to come here because you can really spread out. For most of our suburbs, there's a lot of elbow room compared to some of these dense cities.
Okay, so with prices moving up so rapidly, we want to go over a few strategies and a few thoughts around prices and moving up.
Yeah, so first of all, multiple offers, right? We get this a lot. Like, why are agents underpricing this property to create this 5, 10, 20 offers on a property? And the fact is, as a listing agent, I honestly don't want to be going through 25 offers and trying to explain all those. And my seller doesn't want 25 offers either. What's happening is the market is accelerating so fast. The data we are using to price that property is data from the past. It's historic. It's usually in the last 90 days. But if you've seen seen appreciation 1, 2, 3%. At certain points in the last couple of years, we're seeing almost 1% a month or more. It goes so fast that all of a sudden the price you set for this based on past tense comps is already out of date. And the market determines the actual value, not just the comps. So between that, and that, we end up at a price point that's actually people are willing to pay more for.
I mean, if they know that the prices are going up 1% a month, then really it's just like Warren Buffett says, it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. You want to get your money invested in real estate as soon as possible. Even if you have to, overpay by 1% or 2%, it's going to take a couple months and you're going to be in the clear. So if you have cash in your pocket and the ability to pay a little extra to make sure you get the house, then that's a strategy that a lot of buyers are using. And if you want to compete, then you gotta use that strategy too.
Yeah, and I think we talked earlier about some other strategies like being really flexible as a buyer to give the seller a lot of options. That can go a long way.
One thing we see a lot of is people will agree to accept the property in its present condition. And that doesn't mean that you forego an inspection entirely, which I really would not recommend on an investment of that size. But it means to the seller, hey, once we agree to terms on a price, we're not going to do an inspection and then come back and try and renegotiate. If we find a deal breaker, then we have the ability to cancel, but we're not going to nickel and dime you for a bunch of little repairs. Mm-hmm. One thing that we've had a lot of success with lately is leveraging our credibility. We sell so many homes in the Kansas City market, and we know we have relationships with a lot of the other agents. So, it's really only 20% of the agents that are selling 80% of the inventory. And we network with those folks, and we have great credibility and a great reputation in the market. So we're able to leverage that with some of the other agents. We've had one, actually Dave, one of our agents, just the other day, the seller accepted a lower offer from us because of our reputation and their confidence that we were going to be able to perform, not drastically lower, but a little bit lower than another offer that they had in hand.
Yeah. All right. So, hey, if you are struggling to find a house currently in the KC metro area, or you are going to be transferred in and you don't want to mess around, you just want to get it done and make sure you're working with a team that is going to get the job done, then please reach out to us. All of our contact information is in that description below. We have literally helped thousands of families over the last 20 years move into Kansas City, #1 relocation specialist, but you don't have to take our words for it. See what our clients have to say with over 600 verified 5-star Google reviews from folks just like you. So please, when you get there, when you're ready, reach out, let us know how we can help. We'll see you on the next video, which I think if you like this one, you're probably going to like the 10 best and worst neighborhoods of Kansas City, going from best to worst.